a gummy bear.
Hey everybody, welcome to Game Mess Mornings with me, Jeff Grubb, your host from giantbomb.com. Thank you for tuning in. In this episode, we're going to be talking about some reasons to get excited for Summer Game Fest and plenty more. It's going to be a good one because I got Jan Ochoa on the show, which is brought to you by Kind of Funny, which, hey, why the hell not? They beat us. Honestly, that's what they won when they beat us in Elden Ring. They get another week. But first, Jan, how are you doing?
I am doing okay, Grubb. It's Summer Game Fest week somehow. You know, the planning and prep process on my side, at least, has been a little bit haphazard with trying to nail down some folks to help out, get some things. Some of the bigger parts are out of the way, and I'm just crossing my fingies now that it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be able to strap something together. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah. And I know folks are being very supportive and very kind, that they kind of want the old scrappy sets to come back, and I just don't want it to be too scrappy.
Yeah, I think that we can make it look nice, even if everything just off of the camera is more scrappy than it's ever been. Yeah. And that includes you and I. Pretty scrappy fellows, I think. We're going to figure this out.
Yes. I think the thing that we have, either in our favor or against us, than the OG crew, is that we have a fully realized and a co-owner in Dan Reichert.
That's right.
That is just full of ideas. And, you know me, Grubb, I got to make ideas happen.
Exactly. Once you hear them, you got to execute, and I think that's where we're at. It's gonna be great. And by this time next week, we'll be over.
Yeah,
we'll be through it. It'll have happened, and I bet we're gonna have done a great job. So, Summer Game Fest, GB at night is happening. That's definitely the thing that's gonna take up the most of our energy. We got plenty of other things happening though, so keep an eye on that. But yeah, GB at night will be on Friday and Saturday. It's June 6th and June 7th. That'll start at 5 p.m. Pacific time-ish, because, it's going to depend on like how other things are going with the rundowns there, but around 5 p.m. And then we will be going until about 11. And that's, it's 8 p.m. Eastern time is when that would start. So look out for a bunch of great guests. We've got awesome names coming to sit on the couch, talk about video games, talk about the industry, talk about themselves. Really looking forward to it. And we're trying to go all out. We're trying to let everyone know that we're still here and we're still doing it the Giant Bomb way. So I'm looking forward to it. But boy, ready for us to be on the other side of it as well.
I have a lot of pride in what we're doing. That's what Pride Month is all about, right, Jeff Grubb?
I think so. Yeah, no one's ever explained it to me, so I think that's right. I just assumed. Fantastic. All right, let's explain ourselves. This is Giant Bomb. We are a small team of video game doofuses who rely on your support to make cool stuff. If you want to help, go to giantbomb.com/join. Gets you ad-free shows, plenty of other goodies. Really, this week, what it's going to do is it's going to enable us to do some awesome stuff at SGF, things like that. But, we're going to do plenty more as well. So giantbomb.com/join. Please join and help us out there. On this show, most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings, or find the RSS feed on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with kind of a collection of vague video game teases that all could have something to do with Summer Game Fest, or at the very least, summer game announcements at different times. Let's start here with Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag Remake. Has all but been confirmed after artist interview. This is from Alex Coe at DualShockers. Just a few days ago, Ubisoft seemed to be teasing an Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag Remake, which has been rumored to be in development. And really, frankly, we've known about this. We kind of know what's happening, but sounds like things are moving over there. While the company hasn't added anything to that tease, Figure Maker Pure Arts seems to have confirmed that confirmed the remake itself in a recent stream where the company flat out mentioned that something is happening with the game. In the stream, Pure Arts employees revealed a new collection of figures, but the one for Edward Kiwe, the protagonist of Black Flag, is missing. The host said, I did notice some people asking about why there's no Edward. There are reasons. While the other host interjected, I keep replying saying there's more coming. Yeah, I think this is a situation where this is one of those games that easily could pop up at like Keeley's SGF Live thing, right?
Oh, 100%, Grubb. I hate to say that this feels like Ubisoft's formula lately of like, hey, we're kind of spinning our wheels here. We don't know what to do. Let's just go put out another Assassin's Creed that we already made.
Yep.
And this is one that I've never played because I kind of experience fatigue with the series at this point. So I'd say there's at least a little bit of interest, but I can't say that I am necessarily itching to get onto this Assassin's Creed title.
Yeah, I really like Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag quite a bit. I think the way I remember it, let me know if this timeline's incorrect, Chad. It was like around the time that Xbox One and PS4 were launching, and I think it was like one of those games I played on the Xbox One. Yeah, and it's really solid, and it's got a great sort of twist on the formula by having you sail around, and of course, people have wanted them to return to that in one way or another for some game. Not like this last one, Shadows, is definitely the one people had been clamoring for, but now it feels like, oh, time to go back to maybe what Black Flag was doing. So them kind of having a remake is what they're going to call it. We'll see what it actually ends up looking like. Remake, remaster. They've not really done a remake with Assassin's Creed yet, right? So far we've just had remasters.
Yeah, I don't believe so.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But even then, I say this, would anyone want a remake of Assassin's Creed 1? I'm sure there would be an audience for that, especially if some of the quality of life stuff gets changed around, or I don't know, maybe they add a couple new popes or whatever.
Yeah.
But
bonus pope.
I enjoyed Assassin's Creed Shadows, but I think if anything, it made me realize with the series as a whole, I'm just kind of tired with it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing here, right? Is if this comes out this year, which is possible, if it gets announced at Summer Games Fest for a fall release, that'll be two relatively major Assassin's Creed games this year, right? Because we are just months removed from Shadows. So yeah, okay. So you're over it. That's a little bit too much for me. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'm on the fence. Most people probably are in that, hey, I just played an Assassin's Creed mode, right? This is a bit too much.
Yeah, I think so, especially with other titles out there kind of having successfully built off of the Assassin's Creed formula, or I think just general taste of video game players changing. And I feel like the overall popularity is kind of skewed towards the Souls-like formula, or even in the case of a game like, oh gosh, why am I blanking on it? Scantily Clad Lotion game, Korea, just came out on PC.
The shift up game, Stellar Blade.
And we're kind of ever so slightly eking back into that territory of like an action adventure game like that. I don't know if folks necessarily want a light stealth game in Assassin's Creed, especially if like some of the stealth mechanics are the most realized.
Yeah, for Ubisoft, they definitely are at a point where they're trying to make the most of what they have, and after paring down on several other things, it's like, hey, we'll try this, see if it works, and either it didn't work or they have given up on it before they really gave it a chance. And so it's like, okay, well, what are you going to focus on? And they made that pretty clear when they did that recent sort of split up from itself to hand over some IP to like a new collective which is owned by Ubisoft and Tencent, and that included Assassin's Creed and a couple of other things. So it's like, yeah, we know that they're doubling down, tripling down on Assassin's Creed. I think that works up to a point. But
Yeah.
overall, Ubisoft is still in that mode where they have to find what's next, right?
100% Grub. And the thing is that I'm like scratching my brain for is that they have other IP other than Assassin's Creed that they could be going back to the well with. Like, I don't know, maybe there's some fondness for some of the earlier Rabbids games, perhaps, or I can't imagine that some of the Rabbids games or even Rayman games would be the highest lift to remaster and put out
Yeah,
on modern consoles. That last Rayman game I kind of enjoyed, the 4-player one. Um, and
definitely.
Sam Fisher has been hiding in vents for how long now, Grub?
Well, 10 years. Ubisoft marks 10 years of trolling Splinter Cell fans with a new tease. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but they used the wrong picture of Sam Fisher. This is from Andy Chalk over at PC Gamer. Summer Game Fest is upon us, or almost upon us, and you know what that means. That's right. It's time for Ubisoft to once again disappoint Splinter Cell fans by reminding us that it's been almost 4 years since the remake was announced. Splinter Cell fans are getting excited about a possible update on the remake in June. I wrote in April, except for that was April 2024, not 2025, and June 2024 ultimately brought us nothing. We did hear about a Splinter Cell animated series on Netflix, but not featuring the voice of Michael Ironside. And then in November of that year, the Splinter Cell movie starring Tom Hardy that was announced appropriately in 2012 was officially given the Sam Fisher handshake. I think that means it's done and not happening. Prior to that, the full remake of Splinter Cell was revealed in December 2021. A year later, we were told it was being rewritten for a modern day audience. And then a month later, that the director quit, so not exactly setting the world on fire. The obvious implication is that Ubisoft has some sort of Splinter Cell news cooking for the near future, perhaps to be revealed at the Summer Game Fest showcase or a Ubisoft Forward event that hasn't been announced. I suppose that's possible as well. They really have not said anything about that, though, so maybe not. But I have concerns that we are, in fact, being set up for yet more disappointment. And not just because Ubisoft has been pulling this shit for the better part of a decade now. PC Gamer's Fraser Brown said he was convinced Ubisoft is just tormenting fans with elaborate trolling all the way back in 2020. The real reason I expect this to end badly springs directly from the image Ubisoft shared today. There's alt text on the image, and it reads, a close-up of Sam Fisher from Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, showing a stern expression with focused eyes, short dark hair, and a rugged beard, set against a blurry high-tech background. He's locked in. And then the story goes on to write, there's just one problem. This is a picture of not from Chaos Theory, but from Pandora Tomorrow. So they don't even necessarily know where they're getting their own Sam Fisher images from when they're posting it. This is like a thing where, okay, it's an attention to detail, and that is causing people who have a lot of other reasons to be skeptical about this to set off alarm bells. It's like, okay, are we really going to get our hopes up again when Ubisoft is not even really taking this seriously? I think that Splinter Cell remake is still happening, Jan. We'll probably see it. But I also don't blame fans of that franchise for kind of keeping Ubisoft at arm's length, right?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, at least the Silent Hill freaks out there have gotten a good remake with Bloober Team's Silent Hill 2 last year. And now it feels like the torch has been passed to the Splinter Cell freaks out there that are just hiding there with their night vision goggles, just waiting to be activated and locked in like Sam Fisher. I don't know why Ubisoft is doing this, Scrub. It feels like the Tom Clancy fan base loves anything with that dude's name on it, like Reacher, with that super brolic dude. People love that show. I think that's a Tom Clancy joint. But also Splinter Cell has had a very dedicated audience that, and that the whole of that game hasn't necessarily been filled in the last 10 or so years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of those genres that they were just looking at overall. The industry was looking at and being like, we're not going to do anything bigger than Solid Snake and Sam Fisher. So if they can't make it work, it's like, well, can't they make it work? Aren't those games doing very well? And it's like, I think they were always just on the border of, these are big, expensive games to make, and yeah, they have a pretty huge audience, but it's not that like massively always growing audience. It's selling to a kind of a niche still. So I think that's like why we don't get them from these big companies. I think my point here would be I'm looking around waiting for indie devs to kind of pick up the
Yeah.
torch for the entire genre, but we are still maybe a little bit far away from that. In the meantime, I will take this remake and see what it can do.
Yeah, Grib, you talked about a game that kind of is building off of Oblivion and Skyrim last week on the Bombcast, and that isn't necessarily an indie studio, but like a smaller studio.
Right.
Claire Obscure, the studio behind that, significantly smaller than a AAA Jimmy
That's
Jam. So yeah, I'm interested to see, like, at least in the next couple years, if Ubisoft isn't going to do this with their existing IP and stuff that they have. I'd love to see a different take on it from a smaller studio that is more dedicated, and maybe won't get screenshots mixed up.
Yeah, maybe. And the time to hit right now is right because Tom Clancy shit happened in real life. Did you see that Ukrainian attack where they like, launched drones? That's pretty slick shit right there.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Also, sorry folks, I didn't mean to besmirch Reacher's name. Lee Childs, I guess. He's not a Tom Clancy boy. I'm sorry. I think I was thinking of Jack Ryan.
Oh, sure. Yes, that's it. Yeah, Jack Ryan. All right. Let's see here. Continuing with things that could pop up at SGF. There is a rumor that we might see the Xbox Elite Series 3 controller later this week. This is from Jonas Mackey at Game Reactor. This will be a week filled with hints, leaks, and rumors about what we will see at the Summer Game Fest late Friday night and at the Xbox Games Showcase this Sunday. Now we possibly know about one of the things we have to look forward to, which is the Xbox Elite Series 3 controller. The usually very reliable Windows Central editor Jez Corden writes that he has sources that reveal this is on its way and will be much better than its predecessor. I also have it on good authority that Microsoft is working on a successor to the Xbox Elite Controller Series 2, assumedly called the Series 3, that will modernize and improve the offering leaps and bounds over the current model. Whether it actually shows up, we don't know. Okay, Jen, when it comes to the Elite controller, I like it in theory. I think I'm at a point where from the Elite Series 1 through the Elite Series 2, all the way to today, after they've had all this chance to take feedback, those things fall apart. Really it is like the way that the rubber connects to the plastic parts and the metal parts never seem to really work well, so they like literally just fall apart. What do you think the improvements here mean addressing that or some other like feature being added, kind of similar to a PS5 DualSense?
I can't understand what it's interesting to hear the sentence modernize the controller, and I don't know what that means. Other than like, I don't know, a tech company sticking in a bunch of AI bullcrap into it, which I don't think they would do with the Xbox Elite Series 3. Probably what you're talking about, Grubb. I don't know. Is this something you can stick Scott Hall effect into?
I think that's definitely one thing that would be very cool to have. Scott Hall inside your controller, like the ghost in an arm or whatever. Yeah, I think that would help. Every little thing they could do here to justify the very high price of the Elite controller would be very cool to see. I also think this probably is the moment where if you are reintroducing the Elite Series 3, maybe this is the time to relaunch the entire controller like lineup that you have, because there has been rumors for a while. Part of those were because of leaked information during the FTC trial, where I think we got some confirmation or at least some evidence that they were going to go through with this idea of improving the controllers to be more similar to what PS5 has. So improved haptics and maybe some feedback in the buttons or something like that. And if you're going to do that, if you're going to add all those things, then yeah, you should probably launch an Elite Series 3 right away that has all those things as well. And then take that opportunity to make sure that the quality control is actually being minded in a way that definitely did not happen on those first two controllers. And again, I really like using the Elite Series 2 controller and Elite Series 1 for a long time there. I kind of don't use them now because it's like it's just a ticking time bomb. This big expensive thing, I don't want it to just fall apart in my hands. So, yeah, the market still for very expensive controllers on consoles. I mean, I suppose the thing that Xbox has going for it is it really did kind of define itself as the default controller for PC.
Sure.
So you think that you think there's still quite a big market for these big expensive controllers?
I think so. I mean, we see companies like Scuff still doing fairly well and marketing to console players or people that may have made the leap to join the PC audience, but still prefer using a controller versus mouse and keyboard. A couple of my normie friends get super duper excited over news of new controllers dropping like this. But it's interesting because they would never explore the options of other third-party controllers like an 8-bit dough. They always go for whatever's marketed as like the elite or like the pro controllers,
Right.
even if there may be a better option with like 8-bit dough or something.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I guess that I think what I kind of hope happens in that space is yeah, companies like 8-bit dough step up their offerings a little bit. Like they have keep all what you have right now because the ultimate controller for 50 to 60 bucks is fantastic still. Uh, but yeah, maybe give me $100 8-bit dough controller just to see what that could feel like. That'd be cool. All right. Let's see here. Last one in terms of teasing possible things happening at Summer Game Fest for now. Insider claims Resident Evil 9 will be revealed at Summer Game Fest. This is from Alex Coe at DualShockers. While Capcom has confirmed that it is working on the next entry in the Resident Evil franchise, there are virtually no details available about it outside of it being worked on. If this recent rumor is to be believed, we can expect to hear more about the title very soon, though. How soon? Apparently within the week. The latest rumor comes from Screenfire Germany, which published a video today claiming that we'll see the first trailer for Resident Evil 9 at the Summer Game Fest event kicking off on June 6th. The channel claims, via machine translation, the following information is, of course, provided without guarantee, as I have no idea if anything will change here or what it even looks like, but screw it. We'll see the first trailer for Resident Evil 9 at the Summer Game Fest on June 6th, 2025, with a targeted release in the first quarter of 2026. I suspect it will be at the end of March for the 30th anniversary because Capcom mentioned it in their investor report that they don't expect any significant sales increase by then through Q1. That's why it has to be around the end of March. And yes, it fits well with the anniversary of the series. Sure. Okay. So as far as the timing of the release goes, we'll put that aside for now. Resident Evil 9, somewhere this summer, I think it feels like a sure thing. That feels like a really safe bet. Do you think Summer Game Fest with Jeff Keighley is the right place, or do they wait for a PlayStation event, or do they do their own thing? What are you thinking?
I think I could see them waiting for a PlayStation event. But Summer Game Fest is probably like the biggest thing right now to at least create hype. Maybe we would have, I hate these, but one of those teasers saying like, "Hey, we'll announce more soon." What I'm more curious about, Grubb, is do you think they're going to stick with the first-person perspective for RE9, or do you think they're going to maybe retool it, go back to the third-person perspective, or try something completely different?
Yeah, so I mean, as far as we know, the gimmick for this one is going to be more open.
Right.
I hesitate to say open world, but I think it's going to be open world.
Open zone?
Open zone, yes. I mean, what they're doing is they're taking the improvements that they've made to the RE engine for not what's the one that just came out last year. Well, Monster Hunter is the more recent one, and that one had a big open zone aspect to it.
Yeah.
And that is a lot of stuff that they put into the RE engine to make it do that, with the idea of building up to the point of doing one of these for Resident Evil 9. I think maybe because of that, they do actually stick with the first person. Something about first person open world exploration makes more sense to me. But I don't know. I think it'll be it could go either way. What are you kind of hoping for in that respect?
I kind of miss the third person perspective that we got, specifically the perspective we got behind the back or behind the shoulder that we got introduced to in RE4 and RE5. I do see a couple folks saying that the engine didn't perform particularly well in a game like Dragon's Dogma 2.
Yeah, that's the other one I was trying to think of. Yeah, and that was the first one to really take the RE engine and go open world. So it was a painful transition, you could tell, for that development team.
But I don't remember myself, at least, incurring any difficulty playing the latest Monster Hunter on my PC. So maybe the engine has been like dialed in a bit more. Also, maybe the zones that open world or the open zones that they're looking at aren't as expansive as like Dragon's Dogma 2. Maybe it is.
They don't need to be, right? It
I
doesn't
don't
need to
think
be a
so.
massive map like Dragon's Dogma 2.
No, that would be too
Although
scary, Grubb.
that'd be too scary. Yeah. I mean, I think I like the idea of here's an open wooded area with a lot of points of interest, and you got to try to like navigate that. And it's just because it's so big, it feels very dynamic, and the scares are less predictable or something like that. I could see that working. I don't know if that means that like the entire thing should just be open. I think you're going across an open zone, get to the other side, and on the other side is another mansion or something like that, an abandoned motel. Either way, Resident Evil 9 is one of those games that I'm very looking forward to. I think that franchise couldn't be in a better place. So ready to see that. And then going back to the release date, yeah, early next year sounds about right. Maybe not March though, although the argument that lines up with the anniversary makes a lot of sense. If they are saying that they're not expecting a big increase in revenue before the end of the final quarter of their fiscal year, it's because there's nothing launching even at the very end of March. If Resident Evil 9 had 1 day of sales in March, that would be a huge boon to them. So, yeah, probably a little bit later than what this story is saying, if that's the case, which is fine. Resident Evil games have been coming out at a fast clip for a while now. Yeah, part of me also feels like, man, Resident Evil 9 coming along does start to make this generation, as late as we're into it, feel real to me for some reason. Giving like that real Resident Evil game that is probably going to be exclusive to these consoles.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about the RE9 being console first versus heading to the PC, just since a lot of everything has just been
Yeah, I mean it'll be on PC as well for sure. Yeah,
sure. But I don't know. I kind of wanted to. Even though I said a big open world would be too scary, Grubb, I kind of want to be scared shitless in an RE game, and in a unique way that Resident Evil is able to do versus other horror games. And I'm just curious if we'll have like the magic potion that we just pour over our cut hand and we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Or
I love that. Yeah, more of that.
Is there going to be a giant lady threatening me again? And I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah, maybe 2 giant ladies.
Whoa,
let's really turn up the temperature over here. All right, that's gonna do it for headlines related to SGF. Before we go to the break, how are you feeling about the show and everything? I know obviously a lot of the stuff for us is just like getting our stuff nailed down. But what are your expectation levels at?
My personal expectations are I wouldn't necessarily say high, but I think my excitement is high though, Grubb. When I looked at my appointment calendar, because I was like hounding y'all to get your appointments on the calendar, I realized I only have one. But that's mostly because I've been heads down with other stuff. So it's gonna be. I'm excited for SGF. There's bound to be surprises. And I love celebrating Jeff Keighley's summer birthday.
Exactly. He's got 2 birthdays a year. We celebrate both of them.
Yeah,
it's pretty impressive. He was born on Christmas Day and he's born on the first day of summer. All right, we're gonna take a break. When we get back, plenty more to talk about. If you want to avoid these, you can always get the ad-free version of the show by going to giantbomb.com/join. Speaking of, Jan, let's go to the ad. This episode of Giant Bomb is brought to you by giantbomb.com/join. Join us there, become a member. It helps us make fun stuff. It gets you ad-free content. It also helps us make some extras here and there that we'll give exclusively to you as members. It's giantbomb.com/join for $10 a month or $100 a year, where you save $20. You can support us in making all the cool stuff that we make over here at Giant Bomb. Once again, that's giantbomb.com/join. Become a member now. All right, we're back for Game Mess Mornings. I'm your host, Jeff Grubb from Giant Bomb. That's Jan Ochoa from Giant Bomb. Let's get back into the news. Activision quietly forced adverts into Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Warzone loadouts, and players absolutely hate it. This is from Wesley Yinpool at IGN. The launch of Call of Duty Season 4, Activision quietly put adverts inside loadouts for Black Ops 6 and Warzone, sparking a backlash in the process. Activision already has a bad reputation for the aggressive monetization of the premium Black Ops 6 and its free to play Battle Royale Warzone, but this latest move may have tipped some players over the edge. Following the launch of the Season 4, adverts for weapon bundles can be seen in the build and weapons menus. These are unavoidable for players as they tinker with their loadouts. So essentially, like your loadout menus or options will be over here, loadout 1, 2, 3, 4. Above that now, it looks like there is a box that's the same size right there among your other loadouts that's telling you all these extra goodies that you can get for your loadouts if you just click this button and spend money. It's, you know, an advert for things that are inside of the game itself. So it's not like, you know, the Burnout Paradise Obama billboards or something like that. But I think people are pretty frustrated with this because it's the same thing in Warzone and in the premium one. And like, we already pay for this game. We give you a lot of money. We do spend a lot of money on microtransactions. And yet more and more frequently, we are seeing advertisements sneak into other parts of the game where we just want to be working on the game or doing cool things and not having to think about that. Jan, I think my feeling is we're at a point where these companies have sort of tapped out every other way to get money out of us and to grow their audience.
Yeah.
And so now they're at a point where it's like, okay, we need to be looking at other avenues where we can make more money from the same people. And so they're just going to be willing to make their games worse if it means slightly increasing the conversion rate that people spend money. And that is, I think it's a bad thing for games long term.
Oh, 100%, Grubb. I was going to say that we've seen a lot of these dark patterns, as we've covered on the show before, and how exploitative they are on mobile games. And I can see execs at places like Activision seeing the patterns of, well, if we put this ad on mobile, people will either purposely click it or accidentally click it, and we'll still get the money from that. So let's just carry that ethos over to the console platforms. But, you know, console gamers are a very different type of audience than what you'd see on mobile platforms.
Mm-hmm.
I also hope this doesn't become a slippery slope, Grubb, of people just kind of turning their blinders on and just getting used to just seeing the ads that either they stop complaining or it just becomes part of the daily flow where now I remember the last time I popped into Call of Duty was, I think, a stream here on Giant Bomb, and the UI and the HUD just seemed completely indecipherable for what I was actually supposed to do and click on to get a game going. So I can imagine that folks that are super tuned into how the game is supposed to look and feel being thrown off by now having like 5 or 6 ads in place of where your loadouts would be or whatever else is happening. I kind of don't mind sometimes like the Burnout style ads where it's just on a billboard versus something that is taking over like the UI of a game. So I don't know, Activision, figure your shit out.
Yep. It's you know, in shitification, it's the same thing as that's happening everywhere. We don't have to like recover all of that ground. But it still is frustrating when it just pops up its head and you're like, yep, here it is again. These companies finding ways to just make things a little bit worse, and because it makes them a little bit more money in the short term. You know, gaming is an expensive thing for people who play games and for the people who make games. And so we're always going to kind of be butting heads because it's like, God, you are charging us a lot and you want even more. And they're like, well, we got to grow. That's the only thing that's the whole reason we exist. And I get that because that, you know, it's the system not set up by these companies. No one chose this, but here we are. And yet I just feel like there are times when if you just make a different decision and kind of stand against these things a little bit, you get so much benefit from that. I mean, we see what happens with companies that are like, yeah, the 64 gigabyte Nintendo Switch 2 game card is very expensive. And yet we're still going to choose that for our game, Cyberpunk, which of course that's a studio that can afford that. But still, we're going to put our game on that instead of a game key card because we think that our audience cares about that. So, oh, you care about what your audience cares about, not just what the cost is up front. okay, people are going to reward that. And I think that game's going to do
Yeah.
very well on Switch too, in part because of that. Uh, is that a business strategy like that you could play long term? Can these companies fake caring about what we actually want in the hopes of capturing some sort of vague goodwill? Probably not. But God, I wish they would try, as opposed to fake caring about what we actually want in the hopes of capturing some sort of vague goodwill. Always
Yeah.
going this route.
Strapped now with how to
Yeah.
continue growing the Call of Duty audience. And I just don't see this. If I was a new fan or a new player coming to Call of Duty because all of my friends are playing Call of Duty, and then this is what I get blasted with ads, I just don't think I would necessarily be attracted to stay there.
Yep.
Oh.
All right. People Can Fly cancels 2 games, including Square Enix project. This is from Andy Robinson at VGC. People Can Fly canceled 2 unannounced games and signaled there will be layoffs at the studio as a result of publisher disagreements. Project Gemini, an unannounced game which was set to be published by Square Enix, along with a separate unannounced VR game referred to as Project Bifrost, have both been canceled. People Can Fly reportedly laid off 30 developers working on the unannounced Square Enix game last January. The suspension of the Gemini project, and this is a quote now, is a consequence of the fact that the publisher has not presented us with a draft of the subsequent content rider to the publishing agreement covering the terms and conditions of further milestones on Project Gemini, and the lack of communication from the publisher as to its willingness to continue or terminate the Gemini project. And that's from CEO Sebastian Wojciechowski. Essentially, what he's saying is that Square Enix just stopped responding, stopped giving updates, stopped like communicating altogether. And they have a history of that. Because this is the team that did that shooter with Square Enix, Outriders.
Yeah.
Right. Where the game was on Game Pass. They like put it on Game Pass last minute. Square Enix made that decision, and then the game needed to then sell a certain number of copies for the studio to begin making like money on the back end. Essentially, like once Square Enix made up the money they put into the game, then you start making money. But Square Enix never told them how well the game sold. They just said you didn't reach that point. It's like, okay, well that's pretty weird that you're the studio that made the game and you can't be told how much it sold.
What?
Yeah, that was a thing that happened. So now they're back with Square Enix again, trying to get a game made, and they're like, hey, here's what we want to do, and here's like the agreement. Now we just need your understanding of what you want from us in terms of milestones, so that we can keep getting paid the money you promised to pay us, so we know what direction to work in. And then Square Enix just didn't respond, and so People Can Fly is in this situation where it's like, well, we can't keep going. The cash flow is not there. They go on to say the cash flow is not there. So they're talking about regrouping and kind of remaking their studio in a more sustainable way without having to rely on this money. It's a shameful situation.
I just don't understand any business moves that Square has been doing over the last couple of years. It seems like they are purposely putting rakes in front of them and in front of other partners, and somehow miraculously the rakes are not in front of the Final Fantasy 14 train. And like that. But even then, Square seems upset with Final Fantasy 14, despite that being one of their profitable franchises right now. I don't get it, Grubb. I understand the concept, though, of failing upwards. I just don't think Square understands that or anything that they're doing, because they've been upset with every partner that they've worked with.
Yeah, exactly. And it's God, even for People Can Fly to go back and work with Square Enix again, I bet they had to like really make some promises about, we're going to be there. We're like, let's just make everything clear. Let's like work together in a positive way going forward. And then something changed inside of Square Enix, which it was probably similar to that decision to like, hey, we're going to not make as many games. We're going to really just focus on our biggest stuff and try to make that as good as possible. When that happened, they probably shifted away from this. And the fact that they kind of ghosted this studio in the process of doing that really, really stinks. I do wonder about like the future of a studio like People Can Fly. This is a company that has made some really good games and some has done support work on a lot of other games. I don't know. It does seem like that support market, for as much as games are getting bigger and bigger, it seems like that support market did dry up a little bit, like
Yeah.
because companies were taking less risks and they were green lighting fewer games, and so it just seems like there's less work like that out there. And then at the same time, the money to publish an original game or even to get an IP over to a studio like People Can Fly, it seems like that's also not happening. They're just in this weird no man's land where they do need publisher money and publishers are not meeting them there anymore. So I don't know. The future of a studio like this, does it make sense to you?
I want it to make sense, Grub, because I want more studios to thrive. Small studios,
Yeah.
medium studios like People Can Fly. Hey, like I'll toss in $5 for Bulletstorm 2,
Hmm.
if that'll
Me
help.
too. Yep.
Um,
That's a game I would like to see for sure.
yeah, it's just a bummer that it feels like these bigger publishers, Grub, are clamoring for the answer to retain audiences and gain an audience, yet they're not making any risks, and the moves that they are making just seem to be ill-advised.
Yeah. All right. A couple more stories here. Report EA's Black Panther game canceled because it spent too long in pre-production. That's from Alex Hopley at Game Reactor. Last week, EA brought the axe down on Cliffhanger Studios' Black Panther game. The studio was also shuttered as part of this cancellation, and this decision, of course, came as a major shock to those at Cliffhanger. Apparently, they had just passed a milestone of their own, and it
Mhm.
was like things were going well and everyone was looking at the game and being like, yeah, this is exactly what we were asking for. Thumbs up. And everyone working on it seemed to love it. But EA still canceled it and closed the studio seemingly out of nowhere. Well, the answer to why that happened, according to a report from Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, Cliffhanger had been actively hiring for the Black Panther game just before closure. But some developers had reportedly only spent months or weeks working on the game. So the reason for the cancellation, Schreier cites EA's frustration, particularly executives didn't understand why the game was still in pre-production after 4 years of development. Work began in 2021, but only after its announcement did the staff count at Cliffhanger start to increase. So basically, 4 years of hiring and getting set up to start the game, but they were in pre-production, which probably means like prototyping gameplay ideas, right? Like that.
Yeah,
It's not like they hadn't started like game design at all, but like
yeah.
pre-production means like we haven't figured out what the game is going to be exactly. Well, we also figure out what the narrative's going to be. Schreier said stuff like you're going to be able to play as Killmonger or T'Challa or T'Chaka or something like that. There was going to be multiple Black Panthers and Black Panther, Shuri, I think is the name of his sister.
Shuri, yeah.
Shuri, thank you. You could play as her as well. So it's like it was going to be this game where you had multiple options to play as, and then when you go out in the world, you would fight the enemies. And because this was the former Monolith team that worked on the Shadow of Mordor games, there was going to be something similar or akin to the Nemesis system, where you would fight an enemy and then they might remember you the next time you fought them or something like that. Obviously, it couldn't be exactly the Nemesis system because that's patented. But that, and of course, that means no one else can touch it. And it's not like Warner Brothers was going to share that with former employees. Okay, so the game's not going to happen now. 4 years of pre-production does seem a bit excessive,
Sure.
but that's what happens when you're going to make a first game in a new series, right? It takes time.
Yeah, not only are you building the foundation for a completely brand new game that, there were probably expectations grew up to turn it into a franchise like the some of the Star Wars games that EA has been putting out.
Right.
You're also working with a gigantic IP that is tangled in the current Marvel mess and the expectations of Black Panther. 4 years does seem like a lot, but I again, like you mentioned, Grub, I don't think they were idly standing by and just like kind of looking at drawing boards. I think there probably were a couple of designs happening and documents being created where it's like, all right, well, this is the avenue we're going to choose to go through. And I wonder also if the other Black Panther Captain America game played a part in this taking a little bit more time. Also, additionally, like I wonder if the real life circumstances behind the MCU Black Panther movies played a part at all in this game taking longer in pre-production.
Yeah, I wonder if like the uncertain future of Marvel overall and a Black Panther in particular, because it's okay, that second movie did really well as well, but do we think a third movie is going to do just as well, or it's going to grow? And it's like, probably not, or they have reason to think it wouldn't, and so maybe they're getting scared about all this investment they're doing. And it's EA. We know that they're very easily scared. They did this with Star Wars over and over again, where they had projects in the works and they sounded really promising. And Amy Hennig was working on one and called Ragtag, and they just pulled the plug and kind of got almost no Star Wars games out the door until they're like, obviously we have Battlefront, but let's go make this Star Wars, space shooter game for $40 and kind of just slap it together and get it out the door. And it's like, okay, this is okay. But boy, you could tell they just wanted to get another Star Wars game out there.
Yeah, Grubb, and as you were, sorry, real quick, as you were describing how the game was supposed to flow, I was kind of getting PTSD from the Marvel's Avengers game that came out a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Were they trying to make T'Challa games as a service, or Black Panther as games as a service game with, I don't know, hey, pay $5 and get different claws?
Yeah, and it's EA, so you can, at the very least, expect that they were looking for that from their studio. I'll be like, hey, can you do something like that? But speaking of Disney and Star Wars and all of that stuff over there, Star Wars Jedi director is now working on a D&D video game. This is from Samantha Nelson at Polygon. Game director Stig Asmussen and a bunch of other Respawn Entertainment developers founded Giant Skull last year after Electronic Arts laid off more than 670 people and canceled the Star Wars first-person shooter Respawn was working on. Although I think Stig Asmussen left EA before those layoffs. Now the Los Angeles-based studio has signed an exclusive publishing agreement with Wizards of the Coast to develop a new single-player action-adventure game set in the world of Dungeons & Dragons. Our talented and experienced team at Giant Skull is built on creativity and curiosity, Asmussen said in a press release. Our goal is to craft a rich new Dungeons & Dragons universe filled with immersive storytelling, heroic combat, and exhilarating traversal that players will fully embrace. Asmussen served as game director on Star Wars Jedi Survivor. He was also game director on God of War 3, I think. It says he was art director on God of War 2. Yeah, so he's got a good history there. I think he did a great job on his Jedi game. He didn't direct the second one. He just did Jedi, the first one. But still, yeah, I think this is a pretty interesting fit.
Sure.
D&D is definitely in that space where, okay, they're coming off of Baldur's Gate 3, and that hits so hard for doing what people want from Dungeons & Dragons overall in terms of how that game plays itself.
Yeah.
But Dungeons & Dragons in video games has always had a bunch of different versions and expressions, and it feels like, hey, an action-adventure game set in that world with a lot of those rules getting applied to a real-time action-adventure style of play. I feel like it's primed to really kind of work and take off. And Dungeons & Dragons has never been more popular, so I think this can work. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%, Grubb. I feel like Baldur's Gate 3 really tapped into the audience that likes turn-based action and proved that dice rolls and turn-based combat can be attractive to a large audience. I don't see why someone with Stig's background, all of that couldn't translate to an action-adventure game where perhaps the hacking and slashing can be fun. The platforming could be really fun, but also has a gripping story and perhaps you can romance some of these characters, Grubb.
Right. Yeah. I think that there's a way to get halfway between the games that play like the tabletop game versus Witcher, right? Like of like do something in between those two, keep it very D&D. What is there was some popular Dungeons and Dragons kind of hack and slash games for consoles in the past that people really liked. So yeah, I think there's something here.
I think also, we saw the success of that Warhammer Space Marine 2 game that was an action adventure game, and I got really into that I started thinking about perhaps purchasing and painting some little figures, Warhammer little doodads that I could see the same thing being applied to Dungeons and Dragons proper. Like you said, Grubb, D&D is at an all-time high, and that's not just because of Baldur's Gate 3. We have stuff like Critical Role, Dimension 20, filling up, and all these celebrities like John Barenthal getting really into D&D. That it seems like your normies are super duper into it, and the onboarding ramp to get into Dungeons and Dragons has never been easier than it is now.
Right. I wonder if there's a chance, like, as these new D&D games are coming out, and as these like actual play podcasts, remain so popular, do they begin doing like crossovers or like DLC campaigns that feature characters from like Dimension 20 or whatever those shows are? I think that'd be something that could be interesting, like a very fertile ground to provide content for these games without having to be like massive movie licensing things. It's like, hey, we already have a deal with these people because we already licensed the game so they can make their podcast, which is how that works for these major podcasts. So let's just kind of ink another deal and say, hey, maybe we can take some of your characters and have them appear in some quest or something like that.
Yeah,
interesting.
I mean, I could see specifically fans of Dimension 20 that may not particularly be like really equipped to be a hardcore gamer exploring the option of like, oh, hey, like this campaign that they ran, this season that they ran, there's going to be like a small quest line or there's going to be like a small story involved in this game. I'll go check that out, because the people listening and watching are that audience has grown significantly, Grubb.
Yep, absolutely. People are wanting us to mention the movie. Yes, the D&D movie is good.
Oh, you know what? I liked the movie. Yeah, the movie was good.
Yeah, it was good. It struck the right balance between being a fantasy adventure and having the goofiness of an actual tabletop campaign.
Yeah,
and I thought they pulled that off in a way that is kind of impressive, because it's not something that you would think that would be a natural thing a movie could do.
It features one of my favorite Chris's in Hollywood.
Yep, top tier Chris. Absolutely. All right, that does it for the headlines. We've got a poll question from last week that we should get to. I believe this is the right one here. Yes. Are you enjoying Elden Ring Night Rain? 7% said yes. 4% said kinda. 3% said no. And 85% said I'm not playing. So maybe that's the bigger issue here is, is that an issue? Because the game had a ton of players on Steam. It seems like it's selling just fine. Yeah. Most people don't seem to want to play this game, though, if you're asking a general audience. And those that are, though, many are enjoying it. I think this is one that is going to be, it's going to like come around the corner here eventually, where people are like, wait, what is this? I don't want this. This is not what I was expecting from Elden Ring. Please don't even give this to me. And then the people who try it and kind of accept it for what it is, I think are going to begin clicking with it. I had a good time playing it.
I think you nailed it on the head, Grubb, where I think your normal FromSoft audience is just looking for a solo dolo single player experience with like a gripping narrative that is told through like things you pick up on the ground, and that this may not be their bag, because it does force you to play with at least two other people, that the folks that I've been seeing get hooked by Elden Ring Night Rain aren't your normal FromSoft players. They're those competitive style battle royale gamers that are like, oh, cool, well, I'm just gonna try and like min-max my way through this and make the most optimum run. I had a lot of fun when we played it on Friday.
Yep, yeah, it's definitely one I want to play some more of. If we ever get time again, we'll see. All right, that's that poll question. We have another poll question, but before we do that, Jan, we should just tell people what's going on this week on Giant Bomb, what the plan is. Let's kind of figure it out right now.
We have an unfinished cooking in the books. What is Hopper Man?
Big hops, I think. Big hops
this time. Everybody clap. Bombcast will pop off tomorrow. However, I don't believe we will have Game Mess mornings for the rest of the week, because we are in travel mode for Summer Game Fest that is happening this weekend. GB at Night, as we mentioned at the tippy top, will be popping off Friday and Saturday. We're just doing 2 nights this week, but we promise shenanigans will ensue. Fully loaded couch. Grubb has been doing a lot of planning to get a lot of fun butts in those seats, as well as his own butt in that seat. And I promise you'll be able to watch it. I can't say it'll look good or not. And then, the rest of the week from after Tuesday will kind of be a little bit light until we get down to Los Angeles and all together to prep for SGF as well, Grubb, the launch of the Switch 2.
That's right. Yeah. We'll do some stuff with the Switch 2. We'll figure it out. Honestly, we're going to have to test some stuff. Maybe if we have to test some stuff live, we'll play some stuff on the Switch 2 because we'll have it in our hands by then, likely. And then, yeah, I won't be doing Game Mess mornings, but I'll trade you some GB at nights. I think that's a fair trade. So again, that's Friday and Saturday. Tune in for that. We'll post, some sort of vlog at some point. And yeah, it's going to be a good time.
Oh, yes. Don't worry, folks. We'll also have talkovers over Jeff Keighley's summer birthday presentation. I believe that's Friday from 2 to 4, I want to say, as well as the Microsoft showcase happening on Sunday this coming weekend.
10 Pacific, yeah, exactly. It's going to be a good time.
Yes. Folks, I know that I have other videos that I've yet to edit or yet to publish of the vlog variety, but I promise you we'll get this one going right off the bat.
That's just that's not true. There's nothing back there. Don't worry about everybody. If you heard something that was you just made that up. It's all in your head.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. New poll question. We'll get back to this at some point. Honestly, maybe this poll question will be colored by the fact that we'll be on the other side. Maybe they'll actually announce what's going on with this game. But do you think Ubisoft can pull off a Splinter Cell remake? Yes or no? We'll get the results of that on Game Mess mornings at some point next week, everybody. And honestly, maybe not even next Monday because we'll be traveling back home. It's going to be a minute. In the future, I guess I would be curious, like, hey, if we can't do full Game Mess mornings, would you like a briefer update that I record on like a phone or something like that? Just in case I want to like keep something going. Like, let's say we do have like an ad campaign and we had to keep something in the feed.
I guess we could make Mike do the show.
Oh, we could always make Mike do the show for sure.
He's gonna be home on Wednesday. What the fuck is he doing?
I'm being lazy. I think he's still sleeping right now, probably. All right, everybody. Let's see here. Anything else we should mention? Gonna be a weird week.
A weird week. May or may not be a bombcast next week, but we will put all of the GB at Night talkovers onto the Giant Bomb Presents feed as well as the Giant Bombcast feed to kind of fill in that spot on next Tuesday. Most likely because we'll probably be traveling and recovering from the week.
Maybe it'll be a game time decision.
Yeah, maybe we'll get together like late on Sunday night and just record like a 30-minute thing, just talk about what we've seen at SGF and the horrors that we've also witnessed together.
Yep, that sounds good to me. All right. Thank you, Jan Ochoa, for hanging out with me today and talk about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
This is the perfect way to start the week, Jeff Grubb.
Absolutely. Glad you all started the week with us as well. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. You're the best audience in gaming. We really appreciate it. Again, all the support going to giantbomb.com/join has been amazing. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself and goodbye.
Yummy like a gummy bear.